Hey everybody, I'm making part one of a two-part video about fasting and possibly losing muscle. And I'm sure there'll be more about that in the future. So one of the concerns that people have when they're fasting is, I'm going to lose all my hard-earned muscle. I'm not going to lose muscle. Is it as anabolic as when you're constantly eating? No. But you have to remember, if you're going to be fasting and body composition was your only concern, forget the health stuff, the brain stuff for this second, then you're not concerned about losing muscle. You got to focus on getting the weight off, getting the fat off. So that's number one. Number two, I have been fasting for over 5 years. I started fasting when I was getting ready for 2 bodybuilding shows. And I competed in my second show that year at 217 pounds, about 4.5% body fat. So no, you will not lose muscle when you're fasting. I am empirical proof, right? I know I'm just a study of one, but I'm going to give you my take on it. So there is research that shows the body's ability to use protein can increase twofold when it goes for long periods of time without eating. So when you reintroduce it, it gets more sensitized to it, right? Insulin sensitivity is going to increase, and with that calorie partitioning, where are these calories going to go? That gets enhanced the less often you eat. And I'll kind of throw a blanket statement for 95% of the people. There's always the exception. So that's number one. Your ability to use protein will increase up to twofold the longer you go without eating, when you reintroduce food into your body. Luteinizing hormone, something I talked about yesterday. That's one of the precursors to testosterone. Studies have shown in obese men, when they went 56-hour worth of fasting, this hormone increased by 67%. Okay, 67%. Growth hormone. Now, there's a big misconception about growth hormone. It's not actually good for necessarily putting on muscle. Bodybuilders have been using the exogenous form, meaning injectables, for decades. It's great for fat loss, great for preserving muscle, not necessarily building muscle. So you got to remember that. But growth hormone has been shown in studies to increase between 2,000 and 3,000% with just a 48-hour fast. The more often you do this, the greater. And if you look at the chart, it's a bunch of blips, right? When you're eating a regular plan, your growth hormone basically spikes in the morning and then again at night. So you have 2 spikes as opposed to throughout the day. The reason that's important is growth hormone is very, very powerful at mobilizing fat and maintaining muscle mass. Maintaining muscle mass, not necessarily building. Last thing I want to touch on today, part 2, I got some other stuff I'll explain when I make part 2 of this, possibly tomorrow, is evolution. So think about it. Human beings are the only animal on the planet that eats 3 square meals a day, or 3 times and more a day. We're not designed to do that. But if you went back thousands of years, from everything I've studied and read, you might go a night without eating. Very commonly, you might go 2 nights, 3 nights. So you'd have to go out there and hunt and gather your food. Now, if you were hunting for your tribe and your body went a night or 2 and started breaking down muscle, the very thing that would allow it to go out there and hunt and to be the dominant species, that goes against evolution. It doesn't make sense. No, when your body would go without food, the main thing would be, let's preserve this muscle, let's get out there and get after it. Just as your brain has wired in certain hormones and growth factors that can only get to the brain through exercise to make it feel good when it was out there hunting, right? Same thing. If it got the signal, I'm tired, I don't want to do this, this doesn't feel good, then we would not have survived as a species. So those are a couple things right there. And lastly, so the Embody, and this is mine right here, okay? This, we used to use biosignature. Charles Poliquin taught me that years ago, got level 1, level 2 certified. Very, very accurate, 12-site system that connects with different hormones throughout the body. Okay, each site he collaborated with doctors to kind of tie those in with different blood markers, but very accurate is my point of telling you that. The Embody, a very expensive piece of equipment, when we tested this years ago through multiple clients, it was within 0.5% of biosignature. So my point with telling you that is this is accurate. Now, when I started really diving deep this time around with the fasting, I was 250 pounds, had 121 pounds of muscle. When I did this last Friday, 226 pounds, 121 pounds of muscle. How about that? The same exact thing, and I lost 24 pounds. Now, I will tell you, and I'll touch more on this in part 2, is your however you're measuring your muscle, that might decline slightly if glycogen is lower, intramuscular fat is lower. As long as your performance in the gym doesn't decline and your strength maintains or even increases, you're on the right track. So this idea that you're going to lose muscle and all this stuff, it's crazy. It's a bunch of bro science. It's a bunch of nonsense. But you will not lose muscle when fasting. It can happen in certain situations. That's what I'm going to cover in part 2 if you do things incorrectly. If you have questions, please post them below. Leave a comment if you want, and hit the share button. That helps me out a lot. That helps us out from Newell Strength a lot. Thanks for tuning in.